All right, everybody. Are we live? Are we live? Welcome to those of you in Canada and the US, North America, or wherever Thanksgiving. I guess not in Canada, huh? Just the US? Man, I hope that everybody got some leftovers tonight or what? Everybody filled up? What's up, Jersey Red? Rusty, how's it going? Terry Clark, TC, what's going on? Hopefully you can all hear me. I'm testing a new audio feed tonight. Let me know that you're hearing me in the comments. Comments seem to have stopped here momentarily, hopefully. What's going on? Let me know the audio's coming through loud and clear. Should be a little clearer, maybe a little more present. Excellent. Well, all right. Well, it's working so far. All right, Terry Clark, what's going on? Welcome, welcome. Sounds a little nasally. Uh-oh, I better EQ it. Apologies. We'll get it sorted out. All right. Elias, what's going on? Happy Friday. Glenn B is ready to rock off the top. Excellent. Glad you're here. Scott, what's going on? Steve and NH, what's going on? Danny, what's up? Russ, excellent. Erica, how are you? Kyle, what's going on? Mark P, welcome. Laura, what's going on? Peter, good to have you with us. Well, hopefully, it's kind of a long weekend, holiday weekend kind of thing. So got a little bit of a smaller turnout than usual. But we'll make good use of it anyway, right? How's my feed looking? Is the feed coming through okay? It's sort of getting a little bit scratchy here on my end, but here we are. Theodore, what's up? All right, Laura got the PRS headstock tuner. There we go. We're rocking. Thanks so much. Akintuned Kuye. Not sure. K. Hopefully I didn't butcher your name too bad, but welcome. Yes, this is a Martin. Got the headstock tuner on here. This is a Martin, Guitar Center exclusive. An MVM or something like that. Who else we got here? Loud and clear. Yeah, so I should be coming through a lot louder than usual and hopefully not quite as roomy as usual. And tried to mix the guitar and the voice as best I could. I got some of the guitar coming through the mic, but also coming direct through, so you hear some reverb on it. And so what I've realized is that it's going to really amplify my mistakes tonight, so I better be on point, right? Thanks for joining, everybody. Super appreciate it. We're doing an acoustic workout tonight, but the disclaimer, as always, is a lot of these concepts can be transferred directly to the electric. If that's all you have, don't worry about it one bit. Okay, just try and follow along best you can. A lot of this stuff you can play on the electric as well. Okay, but obviously geared, a little more acoustic focus. All right, Scott, excellent work. It's been an off week. He's been practicing. He's ready for tonight. Okay, excellent. I appreciate that. Appreciate everybody joining. For those of you joining for the first time, please expand the description below the video. There's a link to tabs that we are going to go through tonight. Okay. And TC, Terry Clark, is going to do it on the Unplugged Telecaster. So that's working great. Okay. Awesome. Thanks so much, everybody. All right. So do a little bit of a warm up, and I've got a couple of warm ups for you tonight. So let's get some major and minor scales going. Just nothing crazy as far as the 6 strings. Rad Flying V, what's up? Glad you made it. Exercise 1A, 7th position. By the way, when we say 7th position on the guitar, the position, it just loosely means, where your index finger is pretty much going to anchor at. Okay. Now, this isn't a strict science or anything. I might get you to, or you might play in the 7th position and dip down maybe 1 fret, but that's sort of the home base for the index finger. Okay. But it doesn't mean that you might not have to stretch a little bit. Also doesn't mean that you might not have to come down and grab something a fret lower every once in a while. In this case, the 7th fret is the lowest fret in this exercise. Just going to simply go up a major scale, okay? Starting on a D note. 7th fret of the G string. Zane, what's up? Glad you made it. Excellent. Okay, so we're going for just the top 3 strings, that do, re, mi sound, okay, starting on the root. Anytime you practice scales is a little bit different. What's up, John? Good to see you. Hope all of you, by the way, if I didn't mention it off the top, all of you here in the U.S. had a great Thanksgiving yesterday, and we're into the weekend here, and King 50's here too. All right, checking in. I love it. Welcome, welcome. So anytime that you're going to practice a scale, okay, it's really important that you always start and end on a root, okay? And so that's, you know, and I'm talking about practicing a scale, because when we practice scales, we want to be able to hear the sound of that scale, and it's really reinforced if you're starting and ending on the root, okay? Because as we know, there's a formula of whole steps and half steps of all the notes that make up the scale, and you want to be able to hear that sound, right? You want to be able to train your ear to be able to hear that. So when you're practicing, always try and start and end on the root, okay? But in practice, we don't do that, okay? In practice, we'll jump around the scale and just make music from it, and there's no rules as far as starting and ending on a root note, okay? If I'm going to solo in D major, I'm not necessarily going to start on a D. I'm not going to necessarily end on a D, right? I'm going to go up and below where, you know, like this little pattern right here, might go below it, might go a little bit above it. That's part of the making music part, but for the actual practice part, if you kind of get what I'm saying, all right? All right, so 7 and 9 on the G, 7, 8, 10 on the B, 7, 9, and 10 on the high string will give you an octave D major scale. Now, what I'd like you to do for any warm-up is the down-up picking, right? Notice that we've got a down-up on the G string, but then we'll go down, up, down on the B string, and that means that we have to start the high string on an upstroke. And that's really good practice because we want to just keep this down-up going as much as we can, okay? All right? And then afterwards, I give it just one of the chord shapes that you can use here. It's actually a D octave with the major third barred down at the 7th fret of the B string. Okay. If we wanted to expand this chord shape in this position, you could actually grab the 9th fret of the A, bar down on the 7th fret all the way up to, and then grab the 10th fret of the high string. For those of you who know your caged shapes, this is not an advisable, this is not really a chord shape that we use typically, but we use parts of it, right? This is kind of a tough grab. That's a full G shape right there, moved up so that the root is on D, but you also have a D root here, so I was just using the top bit of that, okay? One more time through that warm up. Sound good? All right, just nice and easy. It's for you. What's up, Montreal? Welcome, welcome, Sam in Michigan. All right, thank you for jumping in. All right, Russ is asking, so when do the cage patterns you still recommend starting on the root versus some of the outlying strings within the total pattern? Hope that makes sense. Yeah. So what you can do is start on the root, practice going all the way up, and go all the way up to the top of the notes in the pattern, come all the way back down. And then if there's notes below where you started, you want to come down and grab those, but then come back up and end where you started on a root, if that makes sense, Rust. Okay. Russ, wow, Russ, sorry. Kind of mixed you up with Rusty there for a sec. I apologize, but if this makes sense. So if I go, let's go a D major scale. I only did the top octave, but in the 7th position, I would start with my pinky at the 10th fret, right? Whoop. Okay. Now there are notes below the D here, right? So I'm not going to get those till the end. I'll go. And then come back down. That's how I would do it. Just drop down, get those lower notes, but then come back up. And then I like to grab the any of the root notes in the pattern. Get all those octaves of the D notes. That really reinforces it, and it's always really good to know where your sort of home base note is within the pattern, if that makes sense, right? All right, exercise 1B. Okay, we're going to switch it to a minor scale, so a little bit of a different pattern. And there you go. As Terry recognized, hey, that sounds a little bit like a Yes song. Well, if we went up a fret, right? That would be the Yes song. So yes. D minor triad is what we're barring down here at the 10th fret of the top 3 strings. Okay. Once again, 7th position, higher, sort of the upper octave D minor pattern. You've got 7, 9, 10 on the G string. You move it up 1 fret on the B string to go 8, 10, 11. And then it's 8, 10 on the high string. There you go. Okay. So nice little warm-ups there, major and minor scale, key of D. All right. Scott's got a question. What would you recommend for learning the cage patterns? Resources? Does GT have any lessons specifically on it? I have never looked. Yes, we do. What's up, Dave? Welcome from Cleveland. Excellent. Thanks for joining. Scott, yes, there are some caged resources on Guitar Tricks. So what I recommend is Christopher Schlegel actually just recently did some caged tutorials. So just type caged into the search bar. On the homepage, there's a little magnifying glass, and that's the search button for Guitar Tricks. Just type in caged and look for his, I think it's an intro to caged or something like that. The cage system explained, something like that. But Christopher Schlegel has a relatively recent tutorial set of lessons on that. Okay, that's a good place to start. All right, and just incidentally, where I tell my students usually to go is the scale finder in the toolbox of Guitar Tricks. So on the menu, the list of items, I can't remember exactly what's on there, but you'll see a toolbox button. If you click that, a bunch of stuff pops up, like a tuner and chord charts and that kind of thing. But if you open the scale finder, the way that it does scales across the fretboard is the cage system. Okay, there's 5 patterns that connect together across the fretboard. So you can switch it, or you'll be able to see the scales at least there as well. Okay, Tien, what's up? Glad you're joining us. All right, exercise 1C for an added challenge. Let's do some string skipping. Okay, so I'm going to use an A major 3-note per string scale, which is not a caged scale pattern. Okay. 3-note per string is just another way to play scales that's really built for speed, actually, and for the added challenge of string skipping. So what we're going to do is play the pattern, but play 3 notes on one string. So for example, 5, 7, 9 on the low string. Okay, but then skip the A string, go to the D string, 6, 7, 9. Okay, so we're doing this groups of 3. So this is, again, you want to keep your down up picking. Okay. So that's the first one. It might take you a little bit to get used to that because you're skipping the A string and also you're coming into the D string on an upstroke. Okay, so it might take a little bit to kind of get used to that. Okay, and then from there, we're going to continue on the pattern. So on the A string, it's 5, 7, 9. And then it's 6, 7, 9 on the G string. So try those. That's the first bar. Okay. Then we're going to come back down to the D string. Now we're in the second bar of this exercise. Whoops. Okay, 6, 7, 9 on the D, but then on the B string, 7, 9, 10. And then back to G, 6, 7, 9. Then it's 7, 9, 10 on the high string. So put it all together. And then end it off maybe with an A major triad up in the 9th position, 9, 10, 9 on the GBE. It's that D shape, right? You play it up there. That's an A major triad, right? One more time on that. Okay? That's the idea with that one. Getting it going, right? Mark, what's going on? Welcome, welcome. And James, thank you for joining. All right. Excellent. All right. Exercise 2, some strumming practice on the acoustic. We're going to start off with some 8th note strumming that's a little bit sparser. In the second example, we're going to go to 16th note strumming. It's a little bit more, strums filling in everything, right? This first chord in exercise 2A is a little tricky. Just that you kind of have to, you can either use 2 fingers and stretch your pinky. This is an E power chord, but I'm using the B and the bass. I'm just going from the A string all the way up. I could easily add the low E string. For whatever reason, I'm kind of going to not do that so that we can practice some muting of the low string with all these chord shapes that we're going to use. So you can use 2 fingers and then get the pinky up to the 4th fret of the G, and you've got the 2nd fret of the A and D. What I like to do is bar down with my index and get 2nd fret of the A and D, but you kind of have to curl your finger up. If I can swivel and show you what's going on there. Do you see how I've got my finger curled up? That's so that I've got the top 2 strings ringing out, okay? That comes with a lot of, once you're kind of on the fretboard a lot, you're able to kind of do lots of these flexible kind of things. I don't sort of expect that you're maybe going to be able to do that off the top, because that's something to just kind of get used to, right? Okay. Okay, but if you can use 2, that's the way to do it, all right? So E power chord, B in the bass, and I've got the open B and high E string ringing out. I'm going to carry those through the chord progression, right? So, all right. Next chord, I'm going to go into the strums in a little bit. I'm just going to show you the chords. So now I'm getting into more of a power chord shape here. 2nd fret of the A still, but now I'm going to go to the 4th fret of the D and add that to the 4th fret of the G. And that becomes a B power chord with an open B string, which reinforces the root. And it adds the E note onto it, so it becomes a B sus4. Nice floaty chord, okay? Okay, so let's see. Okay. Kenneth, hello, what's up? Welcome, welcome. I'm going to take that power chord shape in the second line. This is the 3rd bar of exercise 2A. I'm just going to move it up 2 frets. Now I've got a C sharp minor 7, the way that those open strings add to the C sharp power chord. And then just move those pinky and the ring finger. You don't have to do that if you don't want to. You can switch fingers if you want to. And get the A sus2. So that's the 2nd fret of the D and G, open A string, and then the open top 2 strings. Okay? So our chords are E over B to the B sus2, C sharp minor 7, A sus2. Guess that was a B sus4. I misspoke. B sus4. So great, just power chords over top those open 2 strings sound really nice in the key of E, right? let's talk a little bit about the strum pattern because it's a little bit open, right? So we've got a quarter note up top tied to the next downbeat, and that turns into an eighth note. So what that tells us is that on the and of 2 is when I'm going to do an upstroke. Okay, so it's going to be a 1 and 2 and. Okay, that's tied to the next quarter note. So for the whole third beat, I'm letting that ring out. And then on the fourth beat, that's your next quarter note where I'm going to go to B sus4. So that's the chord change and do a downstroke on the fourth beat. So it's going to go 1 and 2 and 3 and 4. Okay. Mark's asking me if there's a secret to minimizing string squeak on those chord changes. Yeah, it's kind of an art to be able to minimize it. You got to fiddle around with it and see what you can do to make the guitar not make as much noise, right? So that should be okay because you're just adding a finger to that same shape pretty much. I mean, without hearing that, I mean, you know, I've got a highly processed guitar here. So I've got lots of compression and EQ. So that this stuff tends to really pop out if I do that, right? So I'm going to have it going, coming out pretty good when I get up to tempo a little bit, but something you can practice is just sort of before moving up. You know, you kind of have to be really quick on muting the strings, lifting your fingers off, and then really accurate coming back down because it all has to happen within so quick, right? That's why you hear those strings squeaks a lot on a lot of common songs, right? So it's just something you got to work on, something you got to minimize. If you're a studio guitar player, if you're playing live, most people don't even know. It's sort of a natural sounding thing, right? Does that make sense? Okay, let's look at the second bar here because this rhythm is going to be the same in bars 3 and 4. And I'm only done the first bar of this where it's a down, an up on the end of 2, a down on the 4. You can see that the first 2 beats, I've got a half note in the second bar. Okay. And so that means 2 quarter notes. I'm going to hold that last strum of the first bar through those first 2 beats. Then on the third beat, I'm going to do a down up on 3 and the end of 3 coming up and let it ring out over the fourth beat. So that's where I get 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and, okay? So without the counting. Okay? Gonna apply the same strum pattern, you know, conveniently, as you can see on the page, those rhythms are lined up exactly the same above each other. So just different chords, right? We've got C sharp minor 7. Okay. So what I like to do on stuff like this is take that same shape using my ring and pinky and just move it down into the open position, right? And then you got these 2 fingers kind of hanging out. Right. So let's play it once together, repeat it once. Okay. Played through it, and what you notice is this entire example, we don't want the E string to ring out. Okay. So anytime I'm fretting chords on the A string, my index finger is up a little bit so that I'm just getting some flesh on that low string, right? Because if I strum it, it's not going to ring out. Okay. I'm not paying attention to my strum. It's just sort of hitting all the strings, right? Now, when I go to the A sus2, here comes the thumb, right? Just over top, and it mutes that A string. So now when I strum that chord, I can strum all 3 strings, but that low string's not going to ring out. Okay? Just some muting things to think about. Make sense? Okay. Exercise 2B. All right, so another idea here, much in the same idea of the power chords on the A, D, and G strings, combined with the top 2 strings. You can grab a major bar chord. Robin, what's up? And then still have the top 2 strings open, okay? So I've got the 5th fret of the low string. This is going to be an A major bar chord, but I'm just lifting up my bar so that I've got the open B and high E string up top. Okay, so let's see this rhythm here, because it's the same basically, for the first 3 chords here. No, actually all 4 chords, same strum, okay? It's a quarter note, so I'm going to do a down, then on the second beat, I'm doing a downstroke and then a down up, 16th notes. So it's okay. And you notice on that upstroke, I'm lifting off the chord to move the chord down to the next change, which is the F major 7, flat 5, which is just an F major bar chord with the open top 2 strings. Okay, you come up with cool voicing. Sounds pretty cool, right? So if I play this strum on this bar, it sounds like this. All right. So first bar is just simply that major bar chord, and I lift the bar up. I've got those open strings up top, and this works on a lot of chords. You get a lot of cool chords. G, A, the B sus sound, C major 7, D. Okay. So moving that around with some open strings is a cool thing to play around with, right? Okay. Second bar, C major 7 over G. So C major 7s, if you want to go from the C note, 3rd fret of the A, 2nd fret of the D string, and then the top 3 strings, okay, are open. Okay, that B note gives you that major 7th sound. Okay? Nice floaty chord, and for a little thickness, you can add that G note. It just makes it a little bit bigger. Right? And then just go into a regular G chord. So our strum pattern, down, 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 up, down, 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 up. Okay, let's talk a little bit about your arm, comfortably up here on the top of the bout of the guitar, just positioning your strums nice and relaxed, picks landing somewhere in this region, just roughly halfway to the fretboard and the saddles, somewhere in between there a little bit, okay? Want to try and keep this thing going, right? This is the timekeeper right here, okay? You don't always have to strike the strings on every up and down, right? You're just hitting it strategically on the ones that you want to hit, right? You're right, Terry. A little bit out of a Led Zeppelin song. You know where I hear this chord a lot is actually Stone Temple Pilots. A lot. You hear that chord in there. They love to do extended chords. Making sense? Are you with me still? Going to switch gears a little bit on the acoustic. This also sounds great on the electric, by the way. A little more of a piano plucking approach than a strum. Okay, and we're going to use hybrid picking to do this. This is really fun to kind of work out and play around with a little bit. So let's just start with the first chord, exercise 3A. Okay, just an A triad, second fret of the D, G, and B. Okay, and actually I recommend if you can bar down on that, that would be great, because we're going to, out of that position, the next chord, we're going to add on to that bar. Okay. Well, let's just get this flow going right here. I'm going to use the pick on the D string, and I'm going to use my middle finger on the G, ring finger on the B string, and just pluck those notes together. Okay. Now what I want to do is pluck that chord and then go down and grab the root, open A string, and just alternate back and forth. I'm getting that open A string with a pick, and then I'm bringing the pick back down to the D string to be part of the chord that I'm plucking. Let's see if we can see this a little better. Okay. All right, that's what we're going for. Okay, and then we're going to start to make some chord changes. Good news is that we're just going to move some triads up on the D, G, and B string, but play against an A pedal note. Okay. C. Scott, general question, triads, actually you call dyads. I've been learning a few Aerosmith songs, and it appears Perry uses this approach a lot. Absolutely. Okay, countless. Dyads and triads in rock especially, it's just, you know, all over the place. You're going to find a ton of examples of that. Is this type of playing in rock and other styles? Yeah, well, you'll see it in a lot of other styles, particularly triads and dyads in country all the time. We use it in blues a lot, okay? And pretty much all, you know, jazz, not so much, although triads combined with root notes, you'll find a lot of sort of 4-note chords in jazz, because typically the chords are a lot more rich, extended chords. Seems like a shortcut for most chords, especially on electric. Any comments? Absolutely. So, the whole reason for being able to play triads and dyad type rhythm guitar parts, riffs, all that kind of, it's meant to be more as an ensemble. You're meant to be part of a band, right? Because you've got the drums, you've got the bass, maybe you've got a second guitar player, maybe you've got a keyboard, right? And they all take up space. So when you start going to triads and dyads, you don't have to fill up as much space, because the band is filling up a whole range of frequencies, right? As opposed to, say, a singer-songwriter, or if you're accompanying a singer on just an acoustic guitar, then in that case, you want to be using fuller chords. You'll use a lot of bar chords and open chords because they're a lot fuller sounding, because there's basically no other instruments typically, right? Okay. But if you're in a band situation with lots of other instrumentation, this is where using dyads and triads becomes really important, because you can still find your spot within the band context, right? And still sort of stick out. If you're trying to play big chords and all that, it clashes with a lot of the other instruments, if that makes sense. Okay. And Robin's asking, are dyads like double stops? Yeah, they're the exact same. It's just another word for a double stop. Okay. Those of you who don't know triads, of which say this A triad, 3-note chord. Okay. I'm making an A major chord with the least amount of notes possible, which is the root, third, and fifth, right? So that's a triad. Now a dyad is, or a double stop, is 2 notes at the same time. So I might sort of outline the A major by playing only 2 of the notes, maybe just the root and the third, right? Or up here, right? Okay, and you see that a lot too, right? Sometimes you're just hitting 2 of the notes, okay? Double stops, right? Or like, you know, that kind of thing. double stops. Okay. That's the idea. All right. Triads, 3-note chords, double stops, or dyads, 2-note, which is more of a sort of harmony, sort of a melody and a harmony note put together. Okay. Donna, it's going well. How are you? Good to see you again. Mammy in New Zealand, what's up? Welcome, welcome, Mammy Mac. Like that name. Cool. All right, so let's put in some chord changes. We're back on exercise 3A. And what we're going to do is go to a D triad now. 4th fret of the D, 2nd fret of the G, 3rd fret of the B string. Excuse me. Oh my goodness. Okay. And so now I've got a D triad with an A in the bass. That's why you see this written as D/A. They're sometimes called slash chords or piano chords. The first letter is the chord, and then the slash, and then the second letter is the root. Okay, so. And then I'm going to move up to a G triad, 5, 4, and 3 on the D, G, and B string. And then back down to the D. Back down to the A. Terry, what's up? Glad you made it. So put this whole exercise together, 3A. It's going to sound like this. Okay. A little more piano-like, a little more of a plucking kind of approach. Okay. Works great on acoustic, but also works great on your Telecaster unplugged, right? Your electric guitar is going to be great as well on a clean sound. Even a dirty sound. It's not to exclude that, right? All right. I like that. Terry's bringing up some Bruce Coburn. Dude, he is a master. Super underrated guitar player right there. Man, bringing up a Canadian classic. I like it. Cool. Okay, so exercise 3B, we're going to just move string sets and play off a D chord. Okay, and we're going to play off the top 3 strings. Same approach. We're going to pick that G string along with plucking the B and high E string, and then alternate that between picking the open D string, right? So. All right, what chords have we got here? D major triad, 3 notes. G major triad, 3 notes. And then a little bit different here. You've got a D7 chord, okay? But in order to have a 7th chord, you actually need 4 notes to make a 7th chord. So we're just sort of highlighting a 7th chord. Turns out it's a D7. Okay, we've got the D, got the 5th, and we've got the flat 7. So we've got no 3rd on this against the open D. Okay, so just sort of outlining a D7, right? Laura playing with the Blues Junior. I love it. Crank it up tonight, slightly dirty. It's the best way. So that's a Friday night setting, right? I like that. All righty, you with me? Exercise 4, open chord embellishment. So I'm going through quite an adventurous chord progression here to sort of, but with the same sort of rhythm approach to show you sort of a really common, simple, well, somewhat simple embellishment on these open chord shapes. Okay, so let's look at this first bar here. I'm going to go open A chord. And the strum is going to be down, down, up, down, down, up is sort of the idea. Okay, so the first one is just going to be the root. What's up, Joseph? Welcome. So just the root. And then a down, up on the chord. Now, I should mention in this particular example, okay, you're picking out a lot of single strings. And as long as you're holding the chord, it's actually not that critical that you hit only the single string. That's the way I've tabbed it, and that's sort of what I'm going for. but it still sounds really good if you happen to hit the adjacent strings. For example, instead of just like the root and then the two strums, it still sounds good if you're hitting the lower part of the chord. Okay? It's not like a super exact science as far as what we're going for in this particular example. Okay? So it's okay. As long as you're holding the chord, it's still going to sound fine if you happen to hit more than just the root note there. Okay? But I definitely at least want to have this hammer on with my pinky from the open B string to the second fret of the B. Okay? And I'm going to follow that up with a down up. Now, again, it's not super critical that I'm just hitting the open B string, but you want to make that sort of the focus string that you're hitting. And if you happen to hit, like, say, the open E with it or the open G around it, it's still okay. Like I did right there, right? Okay. You can still hear it in there. You want it to pop out, but it's not super critical if you're just that you just get that B string, okay? All right, I'm going to take that same strum and apply it to an open D chord, okay? And this time, once again, hitting the open D string, but doesn't matter that much. You can still have the open A string with it, right? But the one I want to hammer onto is the open E string to the second fret, okay? Sorry. Okay, going to a C chord next. And my hammer is going to be on the D string, open D to the second fret of the D. Going to the G chord. It's going to be the A string, open A to the second fret. Switching to an F over C. Okay, so it's basically an F bar chord, but I'm not going to get the low string. Okay, and that's going to allow me to hammer on from the open G string to the second fret of the G. Okay, because if I was barring, I wouldn't be able to do that. You'd have more of that bluesy sound. Here I'm trying to get to the sus2 to the third, right? All right, last couple bars throw a little bit of a monkey wrench into things. We go to a minor chord now, E minor. Okay, and I'm hammering on from the open D to the second fret of the D. Going to an A minor. Now look at that bar. I'm actually hammering on two strings at a time. Open D and G to the second fret of the D and G. Doing that one. And then a final strum on A minor. So I'm going to try and put this whole thing together seamlessly for you. This is exercise 4 with the embellishments. Here we go. Gonna have to go again because I think I missed one of them. Missed the G maybe. Let's try it again. Okay. What's up, Chad? All right, all right. It is. The holidays have begun. Yeah, so I mean, this is a really common approach here. Mostly in this case, going, a lot of these are going from the sus2 to the third. So we're just coming up a whole step down from the third and hammering on to the third of the chord, right? That's with the A chord, D chord, C chord, G chord, F chord, right? Then we get to the E minor. We're actually doing it from the 7th to the root, to the upper octave root, and then doing it with the 4th to the 5th, as well as the 7th to the root on the A minor. Okay, so just some examples of some things you can do just to kind of, not, instead of just strumming through, right, just a static chord, by adding a little, just that little move adds a lot of texture, right? And there you go. Yeah, Neil Youngish, maybe. Cool. All right, let's get to some arpeggiation stuff, exercises. By the way, we do this each and every week. We have tabbed examples, and hopefully my idea for you is to be inspired by this a little bit, to check it out throughout the week, and go beyond these examples. Don't just work on them verbatim. Try to experiment with them and twist them around and see what you can do with it, okay? Because it's meant to be a springboard, all right? With, with trying different keys, trying different chord shapes, make them your own. Exactly, Robin. Because that's, anything that you learn, if you experiment with it, you'll find that you can turn maybe one idea into 10 solid ideas to have in your back pocket, right? So stumbling onto stuff is, do not sort of underestimate how much that can give you ideas and give you things to kind of add in whenever you're, playing music, right? It's the whole idea. Arpeggiation exercise. The first part of this, exercise 5A, I'm going to play the exact same chord progression in 5B, but with a different arpeggiation pattern. Okay, so I've got the 7th fret of the D string, 6th fret of the G string. All right, sort of outlining an A major. But if I add the open A string, open B, and open high E string, you end up with an A add 9, all right? All right, yes, we do have the Black Friday discount on Guitar Tricks. Excellent. Right on, Chad. I'm here for it. All right. This first arpeggiation pattern is pretty straight ahead, right? We're just going to go start on the A string. All down strokes up to and when we get to the high E string, switch to up strokes. And then come back down the string. So. Next chord, 6th fret of the D, 4th fret of the G. And we're sort of outlining a bit of an extended A major 7. Okay. Another way I like to think of this is sort of, if you're thinking about your triads, like we're not fretting a full triad, but those 2 notes that we were hitting right here, you could extend it up to sort of visualize an A major triad. Same thing at 6 and 4 of the D and G. If I think about maybe making a triad at the 5th fret of the B string, that looks like an E triad to me. So I kind of think in terms of, I've sort of gone to roughly an E over A. I know that there's some extra notes ringing out, but that's sort of what I'm thinking a little bit as an alternative to how I've named the chord there. A major 7 sus2, which is also correct. But also thinking of that as a E major triad. I mean, I've got the open E string there, so it is an E major, an extra B note over A. And then moving that down 2 frets, and then I think of the D triad there. But you got the open B string, open E string, so it's even more of a complex sort of D chord. And then cool, 3rd fret of the D, 2nd fret of the G, 3rd fret of the B. Nice floaty chord right there. Sort of a D minor add 9 over A. So put it together with this arpeggiation pattern, sounds like this. Something like that, right? So as always, getting this under your fingers and getting the feel right and all of that, you may want to go a lot slower than that at first, just to make sure that your timing's good, your chord changes are good, right? And the speed doesn't matter. What matters is that you are playing it correctly, okay? And that you've got nice timing and smooth chord changes. And if you have to slow way down in order to have that, then that's what you do. And that's where you practice. Okay. Because once you program all of that in, it's a lot easier to speed it up. When you're already doing it correctly, just a lot slower, the more you practice it down there, the easier it's going to be to start speeding it up. And at least you know you were playing it correctly. You've programmed it in correctly. So now all that's going to come is the speed with the amount that you practice it, right? So that's the whole idea behind this. Exercise 5B, I've changed up the picking pattern. Same chords, but now... So instead of going all the way up to the B string, I'm coming back to the D string. Now, you'll see my suggested picking pattern over each note, right? Down, down, up, up, up. Just a suggestion, okay? This is not set in stone. You may feel it a little bit differently naturally, okay? If you're making it happen with different strokes that seem easier for you or more natural for you, then do it, okay? Just a suggestion, something to think about. This is mostly the way that I would do it. Just, down, down, up, down, and then ups coming down from the top string. All right, so I clearly was improvising a little bit, but I think you get the idea, right? We can go really slow with it. Cool, so just showing you that you don't always have to go just up and down with arpeggiations. You can kind of make any pattern you want, right? And they're all kind of cool. Just experiment, right? Could be a little bread-like. I think so. I like that. Exercise 6. All right, we got a couple left here coming in the home stretch. So this is a syncopated strum. We're just going to have to look at, so each bar here, it's got the same strum pattern, each measure. And we've got some dotted eighth notes until the last two of the bar, which are just straight eighth notes. Okay. So whenever you see a dotted eighth note, that means that we're holding it an extra 16th note, actually. Okay. So you're going basically 1.5, whatever the rhythmic value is of the note. So we have to think of this in terms of 16th notes. And when you see a pattern like this, it sort of feels like this. It's sort of a classic 16th note syncopated pattern that goes da 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 da. That's that first bar. So what you've got is a strum with 2 16th note pulses in between that you're letting it ring out, and then you're going to repeat that. Okay, so the first 4 strums of this bar are basically a strum letting it ring out for 2 16th notes after. So it's strum, 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 and then those last 2 eighth notes, strum, strum. Okay, so if I put that chord together, got a C major chord, this particular one open position, but with my pinky on the 3rd fret of the high string, which is still an open C chord. You could either have the open E up top, or you can have the G note up top. The G is the 5th, right? All right, so when I strum this, it's going to be da 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 da. Okay, so okay, if I kind of muted it out, it would sound like. All right, trying to keep this going. Then I'm going to move that same shape up 2 frets. a floaty D major chord, the D add 11. Okay, same strums. Then moving up to 7 on the A, 5 on the D, open G, open B string, 7 on the high string. E minor, sort of a different voicing of that one. It kind of fits with sort of the general shape of what we're doing. And then going up to the 8th position and getting the original sort of C shape up here, which is just a straight G major because you got an open G string in between. So put it all together. All right, makes sense? Kind of a fun one, but I just wanted to show you sort of that rhythm. Dun, 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 dun. That one's a classic, okay? Plenty of songs with that one. So there you go. All right. Exercise 7, got to do a blues, right? So we've got the shuffle feel. 8th note shuffle. So if we're thinking 8th notes, down, up, down, up, down, up, down, up, 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and, that was straight time. That means that your downs and ups are spaced out exactly equally, okay? Call it straight time. But if I push that upstroke a little bit closer to the downstroke, you get a little bit of a bounce, a swing, or the triplet shuffle, right? Versus, okay, that gives you your bluesy shuffle feel. So that's what we're going to do. I'm going to grab 2nd fret of the D, 2nd fret of the B, and I'm going to strum. I'm going to be strumming from the A string all the way up. So I need to curl my finger that's on the D string around to mute the G string here, okay? So I'm playing off the A chord and just sort of moving shapes. These are what are known as 6th intervals, okay? I'm making sure to always mute the G string, okay? And just adding it into the rhythm. Same sort of idea on the 4 chord, D7 sort of look. And then going to the E chord. And then a little bit of a turnaround. Aha. That's that one, all right? We want a little bit of a turnaround there, so we're just getting D string and the high A note, 5th fret of the high string, and just coming down chromatically on the D string. Using hybrid picking. I'm picking the D string, but plucking the high string. And then I've got an E7. It's a triad that's not a full E7, but it highlights an E7 at the end of it. All right, so you can put all those parts together and play it as a 12-bar blues. Kind of a cool feel, right? Remember, keep relaxed here. Right? Chad is asking, I'm seeing your shirt as multi-patterns. Yes. This is like, what, 6 shirts in one or something? 4 shirts in one, 3? Something like that. I don't know what's up with that. My stylist, aka wife, sets me up with this stuff. So there you go. All right. Thanks for hanging in. We made it to the final example. We're going to keep that swing going, but apply it to some cool extended chords, starting with a C sharp minor 7, barring down at the 4th fret, starting from the A all the way up, getting the 6th fret of the D, 5th fret of the B. Okay. Full bar of that, going up to an F sharp 7. Okay. 9, 8, 9, 7 from the A string up to the B string. Same strums, right, with that shuffly. Okay, and my wedding ring gets in the way. Got to really curl up on that. Kind of a quick, sort of a challenging chord change here. We're going to play A major triad, 7 on the D, 6 on the G, 5 on the B string, and reaching up and getting the 7th fret of the B, of the low string, sorry, that's a B note, and muting the A string, that A over B, another great floaty chord. Getting E major 7, 7th fret of the A, and then 9 on the D, 8 on the G, 9 on the B. Notice some quick changes here, okay? So just down, up, down. Okay? Then I'm going to move down. Okay? Same general shape here as the E major 7, but sort of squishing it so that I'm 6, 7, 6, 7 on the A, D, G, and B. So sort of a diminished chord, an extended diminished chord known as a minor 7 flat 5. Just one strum on that, and then a tense chord right here, going to the 5 chord. G sharp, 4th fret of the low string, curling my finger to mute the A. Then I've got the 4th fret of the D, and then the 5th fret of the G and B. At sharp 5, up on the 5th fret of the B string, that's what brings all the tension. But then if you go back to C sharp minor 7, it resolves nicely. All right. So a bit of a challenge there. Obviously a challenge with my wedding ring hitting all sorts of crazy notes on the acoustic as usual. So that's a fun one. Another swing, shuffly swing strum. Okay. And some cool extended chords to that are finger twisters, right? Even I could probably use some practice on that. All right, everybody. Thanks for tuning in tonight. I appreciate that. Thanks, Russ. Yeah, hopefully the audio held up this time. We'll keep going with it. Mark B, thanks so much. Appreciate it. We'll see you next week. Yeah, same time Friday. Next week, we'll be back on the electric next week. Danny, thanks so much. Happy Thanksgiving back at you. Thanks, Scott. Thanks, King 50. Zane, thank you. Kesso, thank you so much. Jody 1, thanks. Excellent. Everybody. All right. Alan, appreciate it. Thank you. Thanks, Terry. Thanks, Glenn. Rad Flying V. All right. Back at you. Thank you, Laura. Appreciate that. John, thank you so much. MA, all right. Thank you for joining. Theodore, Dave, thanks so much. Mark, thank you. Joseph, happy Thanksgiving back at you. Thanks so much, everybody. Anytime, Scott. Appreciate it. My pleasure. Rusty, Jersey Red. Thank you, sir, as always, for holding it down on the comments. Appreciate it. Everybody, have a great weekend. We'll see you next week. All into next week. Have a good one. We'll see you then. Cheers. See ya.